Thanks for tuning in to the Vantage Point Church Weekly Podcast. We hope this week's message inspires and challenges you in your walk with God. If you have any questions about our church, this message, or just your personal walk with God, email us at connect@vantagepointfw.com. We'd love to talk to you. Enjoy this week's message.
So welcome. If this is your first time here, my name is Eric. We've been coming to Vantage Point for a short time now, and we love this place. If, like I said, if it's your first time here, this is a community of believers. We believe that Christ died a couple thousand years ago and was resurrected, and that's the reason we're here, is to celebrate all the amazing things that He's done in our life. And so we're so glad you're here. Don't leave without meeting one of our staff or elders, or really anybody that's here. It's a great family to be a part of, and again, we're just excited that you're here with us. A big chunk of our group is gone now. They're in Tanzania right now with Dustin and the crew that went over there. They're doing amazing things. Continue to pray for them, specifically that the hearts of the people would be softened to receive the message that's out there. That they're going and infiltrating areas that are probably air conditioned. So I feel like we're on a mission trip right now. Okay, so when they come back, we can let them know like there were some hardships that we endured. And so been a good time. So they're doing awesome things. Continue to pray for them. We just finished a sermon series out of Philippians. It's a shorter book, so it only took us like maybe 4 or 5 months to get through it, right? But we finished the main sermon last week on giving. And we ultimately want to be a community that stewards everything that we have, our time and our talents and our money, with the gospel mission in mind, right? Like we want to be able to give back what is the Lord's, give back what He's indwelled within us. And so, continuing to do that, we're going to take a jump out of Philippians for a little bit today. So if you have your Bibles with you, we're going to be in Luke chapter 15. And we're going to read a couple verses here. And at the very beginning, it says in verse 1, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to Him," talking about Jesus. And Luke, Dr. Luke, is saying that the tax collectors, clarifying here for us, that the tax collectors and sinners are bad people, not church people. They're people that we would not normally associate with, or the people of this day that were in the religious sect would not normally associate with. Going into verse 2, it says that the Pharisees, i.e. the pastors and the priests of the time, and the scribes grumbled, saying, "This man receives sinners and eats with them." Now I want to point out that the word receives and eats are very important here. Sometimes when we read our scripture, we do our Bible time during the week, we can kind of gloss over and glaze over things within the context. But this is really important, because the word receives and eats means that Jesus is forming a community. He's intentionally going out of His way to bring people together to form community. The Pharisees, however, they don't like this. They don't like that the people are gathering around Jesus. That's their beef with Him. And so let's pray this morning. God, I want to take a step back this morning and just to acknowledge You and honor You. I want to thank You for a group that's doing the work in Africa now. I pray even right now that You would just watch over them. You would give them safe travels. You would open up itineraries and agendas for them that maybe we're not necessarily in the plan, but Your plan. God, I pray that you would mold lives today as they speak with others, that lives would be changed. God, I pray that disciples would be forever made, and that people would make a commitment to follow You, to give their life to You. God, may we just make such an amazing impact on the people that are there. Not only that, but the people that went from our church. God, I know that You are impacting their lives in ways that will affect them from now until forever. God, we thank You for them, for their setting aside of their time for their families that are still here, that are making it while they're gone. Pray that You would watch over them. Be with our time together this morning. God, as we open Your word, as we look for truth, God, I pray that Your Spirit would speak to us. You're present here in this place. And after an amazing time of worship this morning, God, we long to be in Your presence. And so be with us here this morning, and thank You again in Jesus' name. Amen. How many of you have heard the phrase, the struggle is real? Giggling. How many of you are living that right now? Oh, come on, man, you're a bunch of liars. Like, the struggle is real. And if you're not about to admit it, we gotta take a step back, because the struggle is so real. We have a bunch of crazy kids, and there are times where I repeat this phrase at least 3 or 4 times a day. Right? We just kind of look at the happenings of the day, the crazy things our kids are doing, we're like, man, the struggle is really real. But I coerced my mother to watching our kids this weekend. And the wife and I got to escape. It was fantastic. We got to go spend the night somewhere. Do you know what it's like to eat dinner without children? It's great. You get to eat your own food. You don't have like Netflix on a cell phone over here in the corner, like while you're having conversation. It was so much fun. And we went to Sundance Square, kind of where the fountains and all that are. We were kind of sitting and people watching. Do you guys people watch? If you don't people watch, you're missing out. Like, people watching is where it's at. It's very easy. You go get a drink from one of the local establishments there. You head out to Sundance Square, find a seat. It's free, other than your drink. So we people watched for several hours. And as we watch people walk by, you can't help but utter the words, "What are you doing?" Like, what? You see people in different outfits and things like that, or acting or saying a certain thing, and just like, man, what are you doing? And then we left there, and a part of our evening we were down at the convention center. And if you're unaware, as we were, there was Kenneth Copeland Ministries was doing a big conference thing downtown this weekend, and so that was happening. And blocks away, we hear a megaphone, a man on a megaphone. And if you've been to downtown and you hear a megaphone, you know one of 2 things is happening. There's a police riot and you should run the other way. Or there's a man with a Bible and a megaphone and an agenda and you should run the other way. Like, so this is part 2 is who we encountered. So this is the strangest thing. I'm sure you've observed it before, but being there in the moment, it was all surreal, because here was a group of quote-unquote Christians who was protesting a Christian conference that was taking place downtown. And my wife and I looked at each other and we kind of like just confused laughter of, can you imagine what non-Christians think when they walk by this? Like, here's a group of Christians who is protesting Christians. Like, what are we supposed to do with that? And we ask ourselves, like, what are you doing? Like, what is happening here? And it's crazy. This is the question, when we look back at our context, this is what Jesus is being asked. The Pharisees and the scribes are together, and they see Jesus who is eating and receiving in sinners and hanging out with them, and they're looking at him and just, Jesus, what are you doing? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And if you know Jesus, classic Jesus, and you've read any of the New Testament, you know that Jesus doesn't give a straight answer to anyone, right? So his response is he tells a story. He tells a parable. So in my attempt to be more Christ-like, I set out to do this week. So my wife asked me the other day, she said, Eric, why did you not make your side of the bed? And so I went into a parable to explain why, and she stoned me right then and there. So, a lot of people look at the rest of Luke 15. It's a lot there. We're not going to read through all of it this morning. But you see 3 parables, but I want to tell you this morning, they're actually one parable. And it's three different sections to the same story. And all 3 end with a party in a home. Great story. So clearly he's saying he's desiring to bring all people home. And one of the most significant questions asked in the New Testament as we read through is, who belongs in God's family? Who belongs in God's family? Everybody. Everybody belongs in God's family. There was a class system that was in place, and that's their emphasis, that's the motive behind the questioning of Jesus here in this paragraph is, there was a class system that was in place. We don't associate with those people. And Jesus came to socially frustrate, to blend up this class system. A lot of people look at this passage and say the Pharisees were complaining because they just didn't like bad people. I think from reading, what we can see is that the Pharisees, they liked bad people. They just wanted them to look good. Put on the face, dress the part, own your role. This is the type of people that we would like to surround ourselves with so that we can fit in. Be accepted. I'm here to tell you that Jesus fundamentally opposes that view. He fundamentally opposes the view and says, I love them the way they are. I do. And it's reckless love. It's unconditional. It's illogical. I just love them. I love them exactly the way they are. And he's going to prove it to us in the story that he tells. So it's a 3-part story. And the first one is a man, a shepherd, who has 100 sheep. The second one is a woman who has a collection of 10 coins. And the last one is a father with 2 sons. So the first part of this story with the lost sheep, there was a man who had 100 sheep. 100. You can visualize that. Like 100 is quite a bit more than just one. But at one point, he loses and realizes that he's lost one of the 100 sheep. And I want to tell you this story. And nowhere in the story when you read this parable, does it say that the sheep was deceived or taken. The sheep was never snatched out of the pen. It just got itself lost. It's called wandering, right? The sheep just wandered off. So he realizes the sheep is gone. So he does something economically stupid. He leaves. He leaves 99 sheep to go find one. I don't know about you, but 99 is almost 100, right? I try to use the same logic with my wife. When we're out and about and we count the heads of the kids, I'm like, hey, we've got 5 out of 6. We're pretty okay. Like, I think we did well today. But if you have $100 and I have 99, I'm not going to sweat it. Like, it's $1, right? Like, one sheep is not that big a deal. But what you see, when he finds the sheep, he throws him over his shoulder. He brings him back home. He calls all of his friends. What do? They throw a party. They throw a massive celebration because he's found the lost sheep. Then there was a woman who counts her coins. I can relate with this. Do your kids do this? Our kids have little piggy banks. Like dump them out, count their coins, put them back in the piggy bank. Then you dump them back out again. None of your kids do this? Turn off Netflix, get out the piggy bank, and this is hours of entertainment. They just count the coins, put them back in the jar. This is a woman who counts her coins and realizes that out of her 10 coins, she only has 9. She's lost one. Now I can say that if I lose a coin, my wife probably took it. But let's seriously, like if you're missing somebody, it's like I'll find it when I find it. Like it's probably in the couch cushion. When we find it on the floor, we'll find it. It's not a big deal. But the emphatic language that Jesus uses in this parable gives us the idea that she flipped this house upside down. Like we're flipping couches over, we're tearing pictures off the wall. This coin will be found today. And she tears the house apart, finds the coin, and what does she do? The same thing. She calls all of her friends. They come over, and she throws a party that probably totaled more than the 9 coins she had left over. It makes no sense. And then you go on to the prodigal son story with the man who had 2 sons, and the younger says, Dad, I'm going to take my money, my inheritance, go ahead and spot me. I'm taking off. I'm done here. I can make it on my own. Takes his money, heads to like Vegas, blows it all, and then has this epiphany moment where he's like, oh, Dad's house was probably not so bad in comparison to what I'm doing right now. So he goes back home. And this is where I really struggle. I don't know about you when you read through this, but as a parent, as a father, as the disciplinarian, like, I really struggle with this because as the son comes home, Dad sees him out and runs to meet him. This is the part of the story where you're like, now he's going to get it, right? Like, Dad's like, oh, walks on, I want to see it. He's got the spanking spoon in his back pocket. Like he's ready to throw down. But it doesn't happen. Dad runs and meets him in the field. And he embraces him. He gives him new clothes and jewelry. They cook a huge meal. They invite the entire town. It's a party. The son has returned home. And I say all that to say all of this is Jesus' response to the question, what are you doing? I love Jesus. They said, why are these people not coming to the synagogue and hearing us speak? Like they're going and seeing you and you're eating with them. And Jesus is telling them that. Like, I've befriended them and I just love them where they are. That's why they're not coming. What Jesus is telling us is, I love like the shepherd. I love like the woman. And I love like the Father. I just love them. He's saying, that's me. I love illogically. I love recklessly. To reach people. That's who I am. He completely blows away any fathom of reasonable or logical, even romantic love, and he's replaced it with this concept, and it's another kind of love. It's called grace. And it completely flips our life upside down, takes our reality and turns it inside out. And it makes things a little bit harder to comprehend and to digest. And to me, that's crazy. That's crazy. Why? The man should never leave the 99 for one. That doesn't make any sense. The woman shouldn't tear up her house looking for one lousy coin. And then throw a party that's probably cost more than the coins that she already had to begin with. These things shouldn't happen. The father needs to correct the son. There needs to be, that boy needs to spank him. He needs to correct him and discipline him and put him back in place. But instead, he gives him jewelry and clothes and a party. These things don't make sense. And as a part of community, if you've ever been a part of community, we have to somehow grapple with this passage. What are we going to do with this? We sit here in church this morning. What are we going to do with a passage that has everything to do with community? The fact and the critique is the Pharisees don't like Jesus' community. They disapprove of it. So I want to ask you, does the modern day church look like the three homes in this one parable? Does the modern day church represent this? Does that look like our church? Do we look like a crazy guy with 100 sheep? Do we look like a woman with 10 coins or a father with 2 sons? And you might argue, you say, Eric, that is God. When we read this passage, when you're talking about these concepts, that's God that's doing that. But we are supposed to look like Jesus. We're supposed to mirror Jesus' love, right? We're supposed to love like Jesus. Now, if you look at the 3 parts of the story, they all follow the same 4-part progression. Something's lost, there's a search, something's found, and then they throw a party. Okay? So it was lost, search, found, in the party. So what's our mission? Our mission is to glorify God in all that we do, to see lives changed and disciples made. It's to be a church that's like a home where we can come and celebrate. It's hard because if we're not careful, as a church and as a community, we can come together and we can celebrate and throw parties for the same people for so long that we forget what we're actually celebrating. We can throw a party for the same people and come here day in, day out, and week out, and see the same people for so long that we may forget the reason we're throwing a party in the first place. You know what Sundays are, right? Sundays are our party. This is our party. This is our celebration. This is the celebration, the culmination of everything that's happened during the week. It's people are like, I went to church today, and you did a part of it. We're going to celebrate Jesus and talk about mission, but if we're throwing parties for the same people, we're going to forget why we're throwing a party in the first place. We've got to come back and get recentered and back to these essential fundamentals. We see the same people every Sunday, and so what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here again? We're celebrating that we were once lost, and now we've been found. You were once lost, and now you've been found. So the question is, are we as a community committed to the 4-part progression? Are we a community that can be committed to seeing lostness, to join the search, understands foundness, I made up that word, and knows how to affirm and celebrate each other? Can we be committed to that? Because that's the church. That's who we are. That's community. And here, so I got some points that I believe will help us better understand this. So the first one we're going to look at is lost. And lostness is being displaced. It's alone or broken. To be a church, to be a community that notices lost, where lost is noticed. It's not under the radar. Where one person matters. What kind of guy takes such careful attention of his sheep that he immediately notices that one is missing? Have we personally or as a community been throwing a party for so long that we've lost touch with lostness? That we forgot that there are others outside of us, that we don't recognize aloneness or brokenness in the people that we come into contact with regularly, that we forget people are hurting, the people we work with or encounter in everyday life. Have we hung out with people that look like us for so long that we forget that there are others that don't look like us? And those other people that don't look like us are probably in pain, and they're hurting. Are we a family, or are we facilitating an exciting experience that sets our week off right so we can be good at our job and make good money and have retirement, and all of those great things? Or are we here for a completely different reason called the mission of God? To go and share the gospel, tell others about the good news, wherever it is that we go, whatever it is that we're doing, what we're involved in, our specific scope and space of life that we occupy. Because you're here for a specific reason. God didn't just one day snap his fingers and plop you down in the middle of Fort Worth in the year 2018. You have been prescribed a specific season in life, and so that's why you're here. That's why you're here. God has a specific agenda for you, a plan for your life. And when we begin to feel the compassion and begin to move towards lostness, like the man and the woman and the dad, we are prompted to engage in the search. In the search, seeking and going and looking to extend ourselves, we will go to illogical lengths to love anyone. Will our operative words as personally as a community be to sit, stay, learn? Or will it be to seek and go and extend? Because when you do, people are going to look at you, they look at us as a community, and they're going to say, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you doing that? There are so many other ways to do church. Like, you guys meet on Sunday, right? Well, yes, we meet on Sunday. They're going to look at you and say, what you're doing makes no sense. Why would you do that? When we lived in Houston, there was a group that we found out was doing ministry within the Houston area. And when I first found out about it, I'll tell you right now, completely candid, I said this out, what are they doing? What are they doing? There was a group of women that went into the gentleman's club once or twice a month with a meal, and they would do makeup, and they would do hair, and they would share the gospel with women actively working in this industry. I've had time to digest this, so I was just looking at the look on your faces, and I can see you're like in the same area. I was like, what are they doing? Sharing the gospel right then and there. And so before I was going through these notes and writing this stuff down, I was like, man, I haven't thought about this or anything, but I didn't want to follow up on it and find out what's going on. So I did, and now this thing is blowing up to where they're ministering to several different clubs, and they're actively involved in human trafficking, which is a huge deal down in Houston. And so from the outside, though, in the church community, in our church realm, we look at that and we say, man, what are they doing? Why are they loving like this? That seems illogical and reckless. And a ministry I'd like to be a part of. Why are they doing this? This makes no sense. And I guarantee you the women in this ministry have a mindset. If you heard the phrase, hate to say love center, I know that they had this mindset. Absolutely did. But as they were sitting there face to face and doing ministry with these women, I know that was not a conversation that they had, right? Like they were like, man, I hate your sin, but I love you. Like, no, because as Christians, we're atypical against everything, right? Like we're anti-everything. So I'm pretty sure they don't need a reaffirmation of what they already think. Right? They're already, yeah, you guys hate what we do, but they're thinking the same thing. Why are you here? Why are you feeding us and talking to us and hanging out with us? This is the last place you'd expect to find Christians. But they were there. They need to see a group of people, a group of Christians, sold out to the cause of Christ, that are willing to go out and live recklessly, live illogically, and completely sold out to these people who are destined for an eternity of separation from God. They get the lostness. They get it. It stirs within them. Will we be a church that understands lostness? Will we have that stirring and that burden within us? And if we don't have that now, will we be willing to learn? Will we be willing to take that on and learn, relearn what that is? Will we be a church that goes on a search, and will we go to illogical lengths to love anyone? And I don't mean just to post about it online with an Instagram or any type of social media post. I mean to do it. Like to really, really do it. Found. Apart and connected, joined together. A church where those in it feel found. Do you feel found today? Like you're a part, like your family? And if you are and you're here this morning, have you forgotten what it's like to feel found? Because you were lost at one point. Have you forgotten what that is? Have you forgotten the joy of your salvation? Have you forgotten the main thing? Who belongs in the family of God? Everybody. And we're here to celebrate that you have been found. Even though you may have been found 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe last week, that's what we're here to celebrate. The foundness of those who were once lost. But for some of us, maybe who you used to be is still part of the equation. There's still a little bit of that's there. Maybe we revel in that. Do you remember what He saved you through and from? Because in the past, when we were lost, there were things that we cared about. We cared about position and status and money and tomorrow, and there were so many things that consumed our mind and our life and our hearts that we were able to tune out a lot of the things, all of the things that God had planned for us. Do you remember what that was like? Do you remember one day walking into this church and it felt like home? We just started coming 6 months, 8 months ago. Who knows? Somewhere in there. I can vividly remember that moment where we walked in and I said, this is home. This is it. I want you to take a moment. I want you to imagine those who have yet to be found and ask yourself, what is it worth to you? What is it worth to you that are sitting here this morning to extend your life in measures like ways you never have before? So that many who don't know what it's like to be found can experience what you now sit in this morning. Who can experience home, family. What on earth is more important than that? What on earth? Now, in these relationships is not a time for a cheap political feud. Now is the time to live and love and look like Jesus. It's time to step out and be that person. You have a relationship in your life, maybe probably more than one, where you're the only person in that person's sphere of influence. There are people that Corey deals with on a daily basis and I'll never come in contact with. He has conversations with them. Same with you. You have conversations with people who you have influence with that no one else has. And the operative words are intentional. Are we intentional with our time with them? Are we looking for opportunities? And are we bold and courageous enough to step in and say something? Lastly, what do? They throw a party, don't they? So it was lost, we searched, it's been found, and now we throw a party. I dream of a community, of a church that understands lostness and lives life on the mission searching, that can understand the foundness and knows how to throw a fantastic party. Where we're celebrating and affirming each other. We freely celebrate what we have been through and where we are now. Are we going to celebrate who we want each other to be or who we are now? And that's the kind of church I want to be a part of. It is one that is constantly striving and celebrating who we want each other to be. I'm committed to following Jesus, who tells these outrageous stories. And it's not a game or an accident that you're here. Like I said before, you have a destined purpose in your life for the here and now. And we're not going to be a cute little cliche culture, a cute little church that puts on our face and does these things on Sunday. No. Jesus challenged and questioned the constructs of culture that were not according to his love. The things that challenge his love, his perspective and his love. He challenged all of those things, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to love people. We're going to love people where they are, in the here and now. And my hope is that it gets more uncomfortable, and that it gets more challenging. That God would present us with opportunities to go and share the greatest news of all. There has got to be moments in our community when we look at our 99, when we look around this room, and we realize that one is missing. One is missing. I don't just want to play Sunday morning church and make sure that everything is safe and nice and practical. I want to live life on mission and show people that my Savior is bigger than all of it. That this is who I used to be, and this is what He saved me from. And this is who I am today. A lot of you don't really know me, but I wasn't always the person standing on the stage with a microphone. You know, I think we've all got a past, and we've all got things that we've been through and that we've done. And that story is important because who you were and what God did through you defines who you are today. And that's worth something. In Matthew 9, the teachers had the same complaint. They asked, why does Jesus eat with sinners? And his response in verse 13 to the pastors of that day He says, now go and learn the meaning of Scripture. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices. The word mercy here is a synonym, whatever. It's a synonym with compassion. Mercy and compassion. He's saying that I desire that you would feel compassionately what others feel more than meet every Sunday in the synagogue. How does it sit with you? I would rather you feel and have compassion on what others are feeling than go and do your regular mundane thing that you've been doing. Have we personally, without even knowing, replaced a life of intentional, compassionate mission with simple Sunday attendance? Or even missional community attendance. It's become another thing that we just check off our box. Or really with anything else. Have we replaced it with anything else? Because if we have, we've missed the mission of God. We've missed it entirely. Our worship team is going to come. We're going to have a time of response in a moment. But I want to challenge you with something. I want to ask you again. What are you doing? What are we doing? The community that we call home, that we sit in today, we celebrate every Sunday. What are you celebrating? What are you celebrating today? Are we going to be a community that feels brokenness and lostness and takes notice that one is missing? Or are we going to be content with 99? Because that makes sense. To just be content with 99 in my head. Why would I be worried about the one? Are we going to be a community that just goes to illogical lengths to reach that person, to reach the community, to reach the one that's in our life? Our team that is in Africa right now understands lostness. They're the footmen on the ground right now, doing the work, searching for the one. But this morning I want to make it personal. We're all here. So let's do this. Let's close our eyes. We're going to clear our head. And I want you to invite the Spirit. Talk to God, and I want you to ask Him to speak to you. Because I firmly believe that this is a prayer that God answers every single time. In this prayer is God, show me the one. Show me the one. Who is the person that you put in my life that I may not even have noticed? This is the person that you've placed in my sphere of influence, that you put in my life at this particular time. Who is the one? And hold on to that thought, because I want that image to burn into your soul. I want it to ignite a passion. And then I want you to pray that God, this week, this month, today, create an opportunity. Create an opportunity, create a door that is cracked open for me to go in and boldly and courageously have a conversation. Have a conversation about what you've done in my life. What you saved me from and through. And begin a conversation and a relationship that can ultimately change someone's life for eternity. Who is that person?
Well, thank you for listening to this past Sunday's message. I hope it was challenging and that God spoke to you in some very real ways. Hey, my name is Dustin Jones, and I'm the lead pastor here at Vantage Point Church. We're glad that you joined us online, but we would love for you to join us in worship this coming Sunday. We have 2 services starting at 9:15 and 11 a.m. and have great kids ministry during both hours. If you have any questions about VP or specific prayer requests, email us at connect@vantagepointfw.com.